Offside with Hans McGuire. I'm Hans.
I'm McGuire.
So this is another segment of our interview series called Shooting the
Chris, the shot.
Shooting the Shot.
Shooting the shot.
And today we're shooting the shot with Montreal Canadian Hall of Famer and a Marvelville, Ontario native.
Yes.
Henri Richard. And so, we're going to start. Lee's going to tell us a little bit about Larry Robinson for the statistical group. If I can pronounce it.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy cow. First of all, Big Bird, man.
Statistics.
Yeah, that's it. How about this, hey, Chris? We're just continuing our tour here. Hall of Famers, and we interviewed your dear friend and teammate Steve Shutt yesterday. But for the purpose of introducing Larry to our offside audience, this man played 1,384 games. That's 17th all time. He played 227 playoff games. That's 4th all time in NHL history. On the Montreal Canadiens, he's 5th in career points. He had 958 career points as a defenseman, 208 goals. Conn Smythe Trophy winner, 6-time Stanley Cup winner as a player, 3 in the coaching ranks, another one as a consultant with the St. Louis Blues for 10 in total. One of the toughest players to ever play, and we will touch on February 17th, 74. Larry, you know I gotta go there. And we're gonna just have a blast here catching up with a guy who I first saw come to Cars with the Turpin Pontiacs in fastball and play an exhibition game against our local Cars Aces. I'd never seen a man that big at the time. Became a hero to me then, and a hero to countless thousands upon thousands since as a hockey player and a coach with his role in the NHL. Larry Robinson.
He said that without taking a breath.
Listen, I've been traveling with him for a week. We said a lot of things about game.
But I take a breath every now and then to take a drink.
No.
That's true.
Chris, can you pull over and get me a case of beer?
Yeah.
That never happened, man. That never happened.
Yeah, that's right. That's illegal. Yeah, but it's okay for me because I was the passenger.
You were the passenger.
Yeah.
I don't know what the laws are in Scotland. That's all.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
There are none.
We haven't broke more than a dozen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bud. You want to start or you want me to?
Well, you know what? We can start with, obviously, you have a storied career across the board. I want to ask you, starting off, if you can remember the highlight of your career. I know there's a lot, but what's the one thing you look back at when you lie back in bed at night? Yeah, that was me. Okay, what's that moment?
Boy.
Well, if you ate a can of beans, would you know which bean gave you gas?
Here's
That's
an answer
about
for you.
So you had a lot of gas.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of great fun moments. I mean, I came in 1970 or whatever, and I played my first year in Halifax, so I got to work with a lot of great people there, with Al McNeil and Claude Ruel, and they gave me my start. And my first roommate was, of course,
Noel Price.
Noel Price from Ottawa. So Pricey and I had kind of hit it off really good, and I learned the ropes from him amongst other, really good older players at that time. We had, Joe Hardy, Jermaine Gagnon. Who else we have?
We had Arneson there. You had,
Arnie came
Did he
later
come the next
on.
year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kerry Ketter.
Kerry Ketter.
Kerry Ketter was there.
Yvon Lambert was young.
Yvon
came
Lambert came later too.
Okay.
So Wayne Thomas, Michel Plas were in goal, and of course after I went on, to coach with Wayne when I was out in San Jose.
Yeah.
So Dougie Robinson.
Yeah.
That was, for me, that's what won, because I was fortunate. I come in, I get drafted, come into the league, go down to Halifax. Actually, Mo played down in Halifax as well. And we win the friggin' Calder Cup my very first year.
Yeah.
And then I get called up the following year, and we go on and we win the Stanley Cup. So I get my first 2 years in the league, and I've got 2 championships.
Yeah.
So, this is a really easy, it's kind of easy, I guess. Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And then we had a little bit of a drought, and then then we went on and won, four in a row. But
Yeah.
you always say, and I guess you could talk to any athlete that's been a hockey player, and always their first Stanley Cup is usually their biggest highlight. And for me, it was great. And the funny story that came from my first week, we were supposed to win it. We were talking about this earlier, and we were supposed to win it. It was a battle of the goaltenders, Esposito and Kenny Dryden. And the game ended up 8-7 in Montreal.
Yeah.
So now we got to go back to Chicago. And so we go back to Chicago. We're losing 2-0. Henry scores just late in the first period. Then we come out. We get 2 quick ones from Tardif and Houle. And then we went on. And I think Lemaire got another goal. And we ended up... Cornway, yeah, that's right. So we ended up winning, I think, 4-2. So we get the Stanley Cup. And Ivan and I are the last ones coming off the ice. And somebody threw a full thing of Johnny Walker. And it landed right beside us. If it had hit either of us, we were dead. But it hit, and the glass flew up and cut Ivan for 4 or 5 stitches. Because there it's where you go off the end of the rink, and then you have to go down the stairs to go to the dressing room.
Yeah.
And we were kind of looking up, and there was a whole bunch of milling going on. So I think they got the guy that threw it anyway.
Yeah.
So we go down, and now we've got to go to the hospital because Claude Rose broke his leg in the very first period.
Right.
And so we stopped off there on our way home, our way back to the airport, pick up Claude, and he's on a stretcher and everything. So they have the stretcher in the middle of the airplane. We land, and there's like 6,000 people at the airport there. And we're slightly inebriated. And so Lafleur can't even walk. So we have to take Claude LaRose off the gurney, put Flower on the gurney, put LaRose on a wheelchair, and so we're wheeling Rosie out and pushing Lafleur out through the crowd and everything to get us out of the.
Holy cow!
But it was a really scary moment because you don't realize and everybody had broke down the gates and the barriers and everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, when we come off the plane, you're just engulfed in people, and people are banging you and how to go and everything else. And so you just kind of hold your breath and you just make your way through. And when I got through, my jacket was just ripped in shreds and everything else. And it was a really, really scary feeling. But that was my first Stanley Cup, and welcome to the league, kid.
Wow, welcome to.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I never knew that. I forgot that Claude had broke his leg.
Yeah.
In the first period.
Yeah.
There.
Well, the nets didn't move back
That's
then.
right. That's right. That's all changed after Markel, right?
Yeah.
The Markel incident. So, you touched on Noel Price. I just want to revisit him just for a second. He's such a dear friend of mine. And now, you just said about Noel was such influential for you in Nova Scotia. I mean, you mentioned him in your book.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a guy to have mentor you. He'd been in the league. He'd been playing pro 14 years or 15 years at that point.
Yeah, he came in the trade with L.A., I think.
Right.
With,
yes, he did. The Vachon trade?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Hoganson as well.
Yeah.
Came. There was 3 guys. And then him and Doug, I mean, they're the reason. Doug Robinson were the reason that we won. And unfortunately, Doug, I was there the night that he lost his eye.
Okay.
With a stick hit him in the eye.
Right.
But he was a heck of a player.
Yeah.
Really good player.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think of Noel because, I'm here. I'm coming from playing junior and everything else, and I mean, alcohol. We never. I couldn't. First of all, I couldn't afford alcohol, and if you bought a bottle of Baby Duck, that was a big thing back then.
Yeah.
So anyway, we come after practice, and I was late coming back, and there's Noel sitting in the bed having a beer, and I'm going, "You're drinking now? We play tomorrow." He goes, "Yeah," and I said, "Well, you mean you drink beer before a game?" And he says, "Oh yeah, no, it's we everybody has a beer. You're playing hockey. You have to have beers." And so anyway, so we went out for dinner and everything else, and I had a couple of beers, and geez, I felt great the next day. I said, oh, maybe this is a good thing. So it actually helped me because I had a hard time, like when I came, I remember Guy Lafleur says, I remember when you first came to training camp, he said you put a piece of cotton on your head, you look like a Q-tip. I was about 193 pounds.
Right.
I had a hard time keeping weight on.
Right.
I think, Mo, you were the same thing, right? And I found that if I had a couple of beers, it helped me keep my weight on. Because I would lose.
Me.
Yeah. and now later, I stopped drinking because it put too much weight on me.
Yeah.
But so that was my first introduction to Noel. He told me that you can have beer and play hockey.
Well, you know, he's a beauty.
He's a
Nice
great guy. This guy, he was like in his maybe mid to late 40s or 30s.
Yeah.
When he came to us.
Yeah.
He could still beat anybody on our team.
Come on.
Twice around the rink. If you were going around the rink, not stopping and starting,
Yeah.
but around the rink, he could outskate probably 95 to 99% of it. Probably not Murray Wilson because Murray Wilson could outskate anybody.
Yeah, Muzz had just.
Oh, he was faster than Ivan Kornway.
Yeah. It's what you guys would be the only ones that would know that because you couldn't measure it in a game in those days, and Kornway would get the puck at center because he was a little bit more offensive minded, obviously.
Well, plus he was shorter, so
it
those
looked like
two
he was
Pistons were
quicker,
really
too.
going.
I mean,
But
not
then
to say he wasn't Grease Lightning himself.
No, yeah.
But Muzz really could fly.
Oh my God! But like it was like glass. He'd be hurt all the time. He would just He was one of those guys.
A lot of injuries. Yeah.
A lot of injuries.
Yeah.
If he could have stayed healthy, what
What
a great athlete. I mean, both his parents were Olympic athletes.
Yes,
so
exactly.
they passed
right.
it down.
And Muzz actually, if you go into the annals of Ottawa high school sports, he was one of the best athletes in the city of Ottawa.
We used to compete in track and field together.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
So you knew him going back that far?
Yeah, he was in the high jump, and I did the triple jump. So
okay. Did you go to Osgood High in
OTHS? Yeah.
OTHS in Metcalfe.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, man.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
I'd like to go back and see because I held a lot of the track and field records.
Yeah?
In Osgood.
Maybe still there.
Shot put, discus.
Yeah. Unless Dean Holmes came along and beat some of them.
No, I competed against Dino. Yeah.
I mean, I was going. That's the thing, Larry, is that you're local, really, and you are. And it'd be interesting to see we'd probably know the names, whoever it is that holds the records. That would be names.
Yeah.
Certainly I would know, or you would maybe even know. So it's amazing when you start talking local how much it's all linked. I make the joke about Dean Holmes. Well, the Holmes family in Osgood, they're legendary, right?
Yeah.
That's a legendary family. I mean, the rink's named after their dad, right?
Yeah.
Stuart Metcalfe's named after you. So it's you can't beat stuff like that. No. I love stuff like that. So, hey, just before we leave your first cup, 73, could you share something about Henri Richard with us? What it was like having him as a teammate. You and I were just talking as Chris was setting up here about some of the older guys on that 73 team. By the way, should be pointed out, the 1973 Montreal Canadiens are the Stanley Cup winning team with the most Hall of Famers on the roster.
Oh,
They had 11 guys on that roster. No other Cup winning team has that many.
Yeah.
And it's because you got some of those like Henry. You had Frank Mahovlich there still.
Yeah.
You had guys like Jacques Laperriere there still.
Yeah.
And you had all you guys that were coming up. The big three. Yvon was there still, obviously. He caught both kind of, right? Because he kept going in the 70s too. But could you share something about Henri Richard?
He was he was our captain back then. He never he wasn't a big talker. He kind of sat right in the middle, went about his own did his own little thing.
Yeah.
He wasn't the fastest guy on the ice.
Yeah.
But he worked hard.
Yeah.
He for a defenseman, he was awesome because he was always in the right place, and you always knew that you could, if you were in a jam, you always knew that you could give it off to him. He was a good passer. He could pass both sides.
Yeah.
And tough as nails.
Yeah.
He even right through to the end. When he got mad.
Yeah.
I mean, he came up through the old ranks. So
yeah.
They'd be in a scrum and somebody be coming out bleeding. You don't know how it happened, but you knew that Henry had something to do with it. But he was our kind of our quiet leader. But it was fun because we used to always go down to his tavern
Yeah.
and all the guys and meet down there after. So he kind of we kept that camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I still say to this day, I think the reason that we won so many championships was that we weren't really a team; we were a family.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't just the players; it was our kids,
Yeah.
and the wives, and everybody seemed to get along. And you felt worse about if there was a party called a team party, and you weren't able to go there. You would felt worse if you didn't go there because you thought you were letting your teammates down or your family down. So we did a lot of things. We kept together and we fought for each other.
Yeah. You sure did.
Look, I've heard some stories on when you guys were on the road and different things would happen, so I'm looking for some
Oh yeah.
confirmation.
Yeah.
That some of these things happen. So apparently there was an incident with a case of beer and an escalator.
Were you talking to Cornway?
Yeah. It was Bob. It was this came
Oh,
from me.
he still laughs. He's still laughing today about it.
See?
Yeah, okay.
So this was after a game. It was after a game in Detroit, and of course Scotty puts a curfew on, and so one of the guys said, "Well, we'll all go back to my room at the hotel." But Scotty I guess he had called the hotel and told them that they couldn't have any beer. So Ivan and I went to one of the little places beside, and we bought a case of beer at one of the bars close to the Pontchartrain. And at the Pontchartrain, you come in the back doors, and you go up the escalators, and then you go to the second floor, and then catch your elevators to go up to the top. So I'm the rookie, so I'm carrying the case back. And Ivan says, "Larry, wait here." He says, "I'll go up the escalator and see if Scotty's up there, and then I'll tell you to come up." So I said, "Okay." So I'm standing there with the case of beer like this, and he goes to the top and he goes like this and tells me to come. And so I'm going up, and I'm about halfway up. He comes back and he goes, no. So here I am trying to run back down the escalator with this full case of beer. And I'm going, and I hear this, and I look back up, and he's on the floor laughing. He goes, "Just kidding, come on up."
Okay.
So he got me good, but
Oh, okay. So
That's what it was. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
so that's
That
what
makes
happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Right
So
on.
I was trying to walk down this friggin' escalator with a 24 case of beer in my hands, and he basically
Yeah. Right.
did it
on.
as a joke.
down an escalator that's going up.
That's going up.
Now, so another road story I heard. Now, actually, I heard this from my brother, who used to work. This is going back almost 40 years, probably. You were still playing, and you stayed at the Journey's End Hotel in East End of Ottawa one time. You were driving a vet, I think, at the time.
72.
No,
So
no,
white
it would
one?
have been early 80s.
Oh, that was my 66 then, probably.
Okay.
A red one?
Yeah, I don't remember, but
Okay.
he said that you were telling him that Scotty Bowman used to leave a hockey stick at the front desk of the hotel for guys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Is that true?
Is that
That's true.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, he didn't do it all the time.
Right.
But we went, my first 4 years in the league,
Yeah.
we never lost a game out west
Jesus.
in all the years that we went out there. And I actually thought, I didn't know there was sunshine in Vancouver because never went to Vancouver where it wasn't raining.
Yeah.
So anyway, we won in Vancouver, and we were all saying, "Well, we had a couple days off because we didn't go home that night. We had to stay over, and then because we traveled commercial, so then the next day, then we'd leave, and so we had a 9 o'clock flight and everything. So we said, oh, okay, everybody's going to go out, and Scotty made sure, he said, "No, guys, everybody has to come in. You have to be in your room by 11:30 because when we go back, we've got games and everything." So what we didn't know was, and it was Guy Lafleur, who was the trainer at the time. He came back late with Scotty, and Scotty had brought back a hockey stick with him. And so he said to the guy at the front desk, he says, "I'm going to be going up to my room right now. Would you mind most of the guys are going to be coming in a little bit later, around 11:30. Could you get all the guys when they come in to sign this stick? And so he knew that anybody that had signed the stick come in after curfew.
Right.
And so that's how he'd catch everybody.
Jesus.
So one of the guys that he catches is Pete Mahovlich. So the next day, Scotty's standing there and he goes, Peter, you're fined $200. I got you coming in after curfew. And Pete looks at him and he goes, Scotty, you're right. Here's your 200. Here's another 200 because I'm coming in late tomorrow too.
And that's so Pete, eh?
That's so Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so Pete.
And poor Scotty, and he doesn't even know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there was a lot of FU and FU and that kind of stuff. Because Scotty never sat. Most of the coaches sit in the front.
Yeah.
Scotty never sat in the front. Always sat in the back. Him and Ruel sat in the back because he could see everybody coming in.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
And guys would come in and they'd be walking in with their after a game or something like that with their coats and they're going clink 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 clink. They just sit down because back then you weren't allowed to have beer after.
Yeah.
So everybody'd bring their own. So
Larry, I said in the intro we were going to touch on February 1774. That's a Dave Schultz, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. And we got to touch on that simply because of the role that, not the role, but the what you were able to provide for the Montreal Canadiens, who also had a number of other players like Pierre Bouchard. Make no mistake.
toughest guy ever.
Bruin fans want to talk about Jonathan in 78. That's fine. You know, for 7 or 8 years prior to that, he was a force. Like, he was an absolute force. You tell people that maybe don't remember him dressing and playing and being effective with the gloves on as a player, but also obviously off as well.
Yeah.
He had a number of other guys on the team that were fractious and could take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But that incident with Schultz, most people in hockey history feel was a game changer. And I've asked you everything about it over time. I don't want to go over it verbatim. I know you've talked about it absolutely ad nauseum. However, one thing I've never really asked you about that night was Schultz destroyed Van Boxmeer.
Well, it was Boxy. I mean, it was his fault,
Right.
Because Boxy had it. He didn't think he was going to get hit,
Right.
and so Boxy had his arms down here, and all Schultz did, he sucker punched him.
Soccer guy. Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
And everybody's talked to him about that before, but Boxy, I think, gave him the stick before that. So
Okay.
if you're going to give it, you better be ready to take it.
You got to know.
And it was his own fault. He just didn't prepare himself. But,
Right.
he went down pretty hard though.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that wasn't the cause of what happened later.
No.
What had happened later was, and actually I had left the bench. I was gone into the dressing room. I don't know. I got clipped by a stick or whatever from Kinderchuk, and so I had gone back into the dressing room. And all of a sudden, one of the ushers come running in and said, Larry, you got to get out of here. There's a bench clearing brawl or whatever. So
Caesar restrict.
So I took off, and my skates were undone.
Yeah.
So I stopped at the bench and tightened my skates. And by the time I got on, everybody had kind of paired up. And I guess what had happened was Butch had hit Clarkey in the corner.
Okay. Right.
And that's what started the whole thing. And then of course, somebody else came in, and so on and so forth. And by that time, both benches had cleared. So anyway, I'm coming back on, and as I'm coming on the ice, I just kind of looked up, and of course, Schultz was the only one that didn't have a partner, and he was starting to head towards where Lafleur was because he didn't have a partner, and so I just headed straight towards Schultz, and we kind of grabbed each other.
Yeah.
I had no, at that time, I wasn't thinking there was of fighting or anything else. And we were just kind of grappling back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think Dornhofer and Pete were off and one other, and they were kind of doing something. And I hadn't, really wasn't kind of paying attention. I was kind of looking what was going on over there. And then Schultz kind of grabbed me like that, and I thought he tried to headbutt me.
Yeah.
So I got my right hand loose on him.
Yeah.
And then when I got my hand loose, he had kind of pulled me again, and that's when I started to swing.
Were you guys talking at all?
No.
You didn't
Never
say
said
anything?
it. Never said a word.
Never said a word.
No.
So he, yeah.
So then, and then I got the first one in, and then I kind of pulled him a little bit, and he kind of lost balance and went down like that, and I was throwing uppercuts, and then Dupont and a whole bunch of guys just jumped on my back.
Yeah.
And when it was all back over, when it was all said and done, and I went back over into the corner, and Dupont was in the corner, I said, "Okay, you whatever."
Yeah.
I said, now that you haven't got me from jumping from behind, I said, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh no, Larry, I'm just protecting my."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, right." But I was tired anyway, so I went back.
You're tired of.
Well, but the problem is you get into and you forget to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, you're holding your breath and you're swinging.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't by any means a boxer. Mo was a good fighter too.
I know he was.
And we both
Jonesy too.
Yeah, and we both came up around the same time with a lot of tough guys. He came up with Knuckles Nylon, who's started everything every game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Wow.
he was tough. He knew how to fight too.
Chris knew how to fight. What a smart fighter.
Smart
Very
fighter,
smart fighter.
and he cut people. Right. I think pound for pound, Kordic was tougher
Yeah.
because he was bigger and stronger and hit harder.
Yeah.
It's like everybody talks about Probert.
Yeah.
And Probert was one of the toughest in his time.
No question.
But they said that who's the other guy that was in Detroit at the time?
Joey Kosher.
Kosher.
Yeah.
They said Kosher probably hit harder than anybody they've ever seen.
He had a right hand and would knock out a horse.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, some of his early fights, like he fought a guy named Dave Richter.
Yeah.
And some of the other guys, like he fought Harold Snaps. Some of those first ones, still he got full understanding of, I think, of his range and how, not that he didn't fight in junior, but he wasn't fighting a lot of guys of that stature in junior. And once he got acclimatized to it, then he was absolutely. I mean, the Bruce brothers, Robert and Kosher, they were devastating. Devastating on Detroit for sure.
Well, I got a question. Throughout your career, I think there was an image of you being a gentle giant, if I can use that term. I know it's over fucking used, but you know, people use that.
We can swear on our show, by the way.
Oh. Okay.
Just in case.
So
he's not editing that out.
So you're, a lot of people. You didn't. You could fight. We know that, but you weren't fighting all the time.
No.
You didn't. That was not part of your game for the most part.
Well, Scotty didn't want me fighting all the time.
Right.
No, he would, because when I first came to in Halifax, basically Al McNeil told me, he said, "You either get tougher and meaner, or you can't play here. You'll never be anything in the NHL, or you'll never make it." So the next day, then I got in 2 fights or whatever.
Yeah.
But the game was different back then too.
Yeah.
The American League when I first started, it was tougher than the NHL.
Yeah.
Because I hate calling them goons, but all the fighters and everything, enforcers, all got sent down to the minors because they'd only call them up when they needed them. So I mean, we had Richie LeDuc and Reggie Fleming and Buzniak and all these tough guys, all playing down in the minors. Actually, I played.
Tavish.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was not so. It was nothing to have 2-3 bench clearing brawls a night.
Yeah.
And so it was basically you either
take a bite of your burger.
You either took a fight or you got run out of the league. We came home one night. Remember Lynn Powis?
Yep.
One of the funniest guys I've ever seen. So we went after practice or something. They had a really, really good tavern just down the road from us in Halifax. And so we went there and we were all hammered after. And so we got a call, and we were driving with Lynn. We got a call from his wife. Said, "Lynn, get your ass home here. We got to go and do something or whatever." And so he's talking to her, and he said, and we could hear him. She says, "Well, make sure somebody else drives because you can't drive. You're drunk." We were all just as drunk as him. So anyway, we get into the car, and we're driving home, and I don't think we were over 5 or 10 miles an hour driving up into there. But the problem is we went into the parking lot and it was 5 miles an hour and 10 miles an hour right in, and we hit against the wall, boom, like that.
You're there.
We're there, and Ben looks all at us and goes, "Whoop." Said, "What was that?" And he's driving, so he gets out and he looks up, and there's his wife standing there like this, with her arms on her side. He goes, "You asshole! He said, get up here."
Oh man, talked to you about this before. When Muzz used to run the fantasy camps in Tremblant and have the get-togethers, and then he used to do a golf thing, and everybody would go to Dickie Moore's course at Rundell. And I walked in behind you at one time. You may recall this. As soon as I say it, you probably will. One of the coolest things I've ever seen, because Dollard Saint Laurent and Phil Goyette and some of the guys were sitting on the porch, and they got up to meet you when you walked in, and you went up, and you and Dolly hugged each other, and he said, "Hey, young 19," and you said, "Hey, old 19," because you guys both wore 19, and I just thought it was one of the coolest things.
There was, but there was always a great camaraderie with the old timers and the present day Montreal Canadian. Well, present day when I was there.
Yeah.
Because they were always around. They used to have a room right across the way from our dressing room.
Right.
And our dressing room was always wide open, and the guys always came to the games and everything else. And I think that's kind of missing in today's game.
Yeah.
A lot is that they don't. It's like the old guys don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And that camaraderie was always present back when I was playing.
So your career spanned obviously
17
decades, right?
Yeah.
And I would, and I'm venturing to say that your time in LA was very different than your time in Montreal.
Way different.
So tell us a little bit about that, like about what it was like to be in LA. I mean, you guys, went to the show or like to the dance, in LA at that time. So your role being an elder statesman at that point.
No, I was an old fart the back right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how did your role change, and what was the difference in the team, the family, or whatever that you guys?
Well, as it turned out, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I ended up going back there to coach for 4 years. They gave me my start in coaching, whether that had a lot to do with my playing there or not. But I had for me, it was a tough transition, because I looking back on it, I wish I had been able to start and finish my career in the same spot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got to probably play with one of the greatest players ever in Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
And met and still have a lot of great friendships with, Jimmy Fox, who gave up his number. He gave up his number for me. He took 6 and gave me his 19. And so we're still friends, and we still converse and all that kind of stuff. But I was having a tough time, because it was a different style that they were playing out there with Wayne and everything else. And Rick Wilson was the coach at the time, and I actually played with Rick in Halifax when I first started. He was a defenseman at the time, and Rick and Rogie called me into the office and said, "Larry, we don't want you playing like Wayne Gretzky. We brought you here to play like we want, like you played in Montreal. Just play your game and quit trying to do what everybody else is doing."
Yeah.
And it basically saved my career probably out there, and that I finally just said, "Oh yeah, okay." So I went back to playing the way that I knew how to play, not that fire wagon hockey that they were playing out there. And so it ended up basically I got all the young kids that they called up Robbie Blake, when he first came in, I played with him when he first started. And Duchesne was my partner for a long time.
Yeah. Steve Duchesne.
Steve Duchesne,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was fun. And
What was Wayne like? What was he like as a teammate? What was he like, for your opinion, in the? He'd been through Edmonton already.
Yeah.
So he's.
No, I mean he was great. I mean, and it's not my kind of circle.
Yeah.
You know, like he was involved with all the movie stars and all that other stuff, and everywhere he went, I mean, he couldn't go anywhere and hide. He was basically everywhere he went, he was like a movie star, and had to have security around him and all that kind of stuff. And that's not me. I'm a farm boy.
Yeah.
I like my privacy, and so Dave Taylor and I ended up hanging around quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
We lived not too far from each other, and so we spent a lot of time together. His wife and my wife were good friends, and he had young kids, and I had Jeff was going to Loyola Marymount at the time, and so we lived in Studio City first, and it was beautiful. I mean, it overlooked the Universal Studios, and I mean, it was so great to be able to come out of the rink, jump in your car, go back home, jump in the jacuzzi and have a beer and sit outside. It was just so different. It was wonderful. The only drawback is that with traveling just kicked the crap out of you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It wasn't until, Anaheim came along, and then later on when they bought their own planes and everything else, that you could compete with all the teams back east. Yeah. I mean, I played in Jersey. You were home every night.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, you took a bus to Washington, you took a bus to New York, you took a bus to Long Island, Philly, LA. I mean, your shortest trip was 3 hours to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So that took its toll on you, but I had a good time out there, and a lot of great people. And of course, my daughters came out there with us, and now she lives out there. Yeah. With her family. So, have you ever heard the Buddy Hackett story about that?
No.
There's a guy that goes in to get a penile enlargement, and the doctor says, "Well, it's funny you're asking that. We just have this new procedure now where we take a elephant's trunk and we attach it to your penis, and basically you have it enlarged." He goes, "Well, I don't know. I'll have to ask my wife." So asked the wife, and the wife goes, "Oh, are you kidding me? Yeah, for sure." So anyway, they do it and everything, and the wife's really, really happy, and so on and so forth. So they get invited over to the wife's parents' place, and so they're all sitting there, and the wife's, of course, she's really happy now because she's having great sex with her new husband's penis and everything. So she starts playing with the guy's leg. And of course, the trunk's starting to get bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden, this trunk comes up, grabs the baked potato, and goes back down, and they're looking around. And the mother, I guess, saw it, and he says, "Excuse me, could you do that again?" He goes, "I'd like to, but I don't think there's room for another potato up my ass."
Jesus.
That was Buddy Hackett. It's funny, because you ask, we travel a lot on the planes and everything else, so you talk to the stewardesses and everything else, and every one of them say the same thing. The hockey players are the nicest people that they ever deal with. He said the basketball players are all a bunch of assholes, and football players are rude and whatever, and baseball players the same thing. But they never met a bad hockey player, and that's pretty well, because when you think about it, to get into hockey, it's not, you can't just have somebody out of the back 40 that doesn't have any money that can get into hockey. Hockey's so damn expensive. Yeah. It's usually very affluential people, and they scrimp and scrape for every dime that they can get so that they can afford to play the game.
Yeah.
So it's usually a good
Yeah.
mixture of people that play hockey. So
Yeah. Getting recognized, right? So if I'm walking down the street and I see a guy who looks like Larry Robinson, okay, and I would kind of just sort of give the Canadian nod
Yeah.
and then move on. Do you get a lot of people coming up to you like?
I gotta tell you that story. Were you with me? Or was you? No, my son, Bob. So where you guys were this morning at that golf course.
Yep.
So the first time I go over to play the golf course with my son, we're put with these two guys, Bob, and I can't remember his friend. Let's just for argument's sake, we'll say his name was Jack or whatever. So he's in this cart with Boston Bruins memorabilia everywhere. I mean, everywhere.
Tattoo.
Yeah, he's got a
Bobby Orr tattoo.
Bobby Orr tattoo, and then on the other arm, he's got the 18th hole of the Champions, where he had hit an eagle at Eagle Ridge. So he had that hole, and that he shot an eagle. So he had that tattooed on his arm. So anyway, we're talking.
Classy guy.
Yeah.
And he's
He was-
maybe about 75.
Oh, he's more than that.
Oh, he's more. Himself?
Yeah. So anyway, so we're playing along and we're talking about where are you guys from? Well, so we're from Canada or whatever, and so on and so forth. And so anyway, we got talking on hockey or something, and he goes, "You know what? Coming from Boston, I hated the Montreal Canadiens, and especially that Larry Robinson." And I look over at him and I go, "Don't you dare!" Because he started going to say something, and I said, "Oh yeah, why?" He said, "Why?" Because he said they always won, and we could never get into the zone because he was always winning, and he was always bumping into our guys and knocking us over, and so on and so forth. So anyway, he didn't put two and two together.
Unbelievable.
Because when I introduced myself, I'm Larry and this is Jeff.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going down. We had hitter shots, so we're going down, and he's driving over there, and I'm driving here. All of a sudden, I see the cart turning like that, and he comes roaring over, and he goes,
Figured it out.
"You're fucking Larry Robinson." Oh, we started laughing, and then yeah. So anyway, that's how it started. And then we golfed with him like what, about 3 or 4
Really?
Saturdays. Oh, he said we had the greatest time. We were
No
laughing
way.
and the whole bit, and
Wow.
talking like Boston stories and Montreal stories and all this kind of stuff. And then sadly, all of a sudden, he didn't show up one day, and so we were asking, and he goes, "Yeah, he had a heart attack and had passed away about a month later."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're fucking Larry Robinson. I go, "Yeah, that's me."
After not only calling out the Habs, but you specifically.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about that fucking Liam McGuire.
I know. He's saying it for sure.
Now, obviously, being down in Florida, there are a lot of Canadians too.
Sure.
But you find you have a great amount of anonymity here, like you can just be who you are.
Now it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm so far removed from when I played. A lot of the younger people don't remember or hadn't seen me, so it's up here. It's worse because
But yeah, it's just,
there's a lot more people my age,
Yeah.
and when they find out where I'm from, so you look a lot like. I go, no, it's another guy. It's another guy.
people say that to me. I say Tom Selleck, and they say,
Yeah.
then I say Danny DeVito. So,
George Clooney.
Exactly.
Well, Chris was asking about what goal stands out. I'll tell you what one. I mean, Larry, first goal, Game 5, 78, gets the Bruins in the final. You go coast to coast.
Yeah.
You know that you go up. You put the Habs up 1-0. That's a pivotal game. Like if you think about it, you sweep them in 77, you beat them in 6 and 78, goes to OT in 79. I mean, they were right there. Finished obviously, beat them all 3 times, but the rivalry, not just Bouchard, Jonathan, and Wensink and Luque that game. But by the way, Tremblay hammered Schmotz the very next game. I don't know, that gets lost in conversation. But regardless, that goal, I mean, that's got to be the greatest goal that you ever scored. I know that you got the one against Philly in the semis in '73 because it was.
Yeah, but that was a shot.
That was a shot, right?
Yeah.
But this one here, man, coast to coast, like buttered toast. I mean, it's amazing. That's got to be a great score.
Yeah, that's one of my better goals I think I ever scored.
Yeah.
How I did it, I have no idea.
I was at that game. I sit behind the Boston goalie.
Were you really?
That
Yeah?
was
Jerry.
my designated seat.
Yeah, Cheevers. Yeah.
Against Cheever, yeah.
Yeah.
It started out, and it's funny because I came around. Sergio had the puck, and then I came around behind and picked
Yeah.
it up, and then took off and went all the way up the side.
Yeah.
And it was good because the fact that I got to go around Millbury, who just
I know.
I love doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But then Cheesy he tried to poke check me
Yeah.
early, so I was able to bring it in and
Yeah. He gave you enough.
excuse
room
me,
and you
put it back the same side.
fired up there. Yeah.
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 No, that was fun.
It's
Fun
fun.
times.
It's not just it was a beautiful goal, but how impactful it was. Like that was, it was the first goal of the game.
Yeah.
So it kind of set the tone because it was 0-0 for like forever.
Yeah, it was a good series.
It was a hell of a series.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a series. Obviously, the violence in game 5 and 6, but I mean, hey, they were coming and they wanted it. And look, yeah, Stan got the better of Pierre. Whatever,
Well,
I mean,
you know what? Because I was standing right beside there, and
Yeah.
the funny thing is that Stan got Butch with the first one on the nose,
on the
so
nose.
his eyes were watering and everything. But then D'Amico jumps in the middle,
Yeah,
and just as Pierre swung,
yeah.
and so all the blood on the ice wasn't from Pierre; it was from
I know
D'Amico.
D'Amico was cut badly too. Yeah,
That was from a punch that was supposed to get
should
Jonathan.
have got Jonathan. Yeah,
Should have got Jonathan. So
Yeah.
if D'Amico doesn't jump in,
yeah,
trust me, that turns out a lot. And that's the only bad thing about that happened from that. And I mean, I haven't brought it up with Scotty, but it ate Butch up because Butch and I were roommates at the time.
Oh, you were.
Is that the following game,
Yeah,
Pierre wanted to go back and get dressed, and he wasn't dressed for the next game.
right.
And from then on, Butch was just not the same.
No.
But
Butch would have gone him, mate. Would have
Oh.
gone him again. Yeah,
he was when he just fooling around. Butch would just punch you,
yeah.
and your next day you'd look and you'd have a friggin'
Yeah, he's strong.
burst. Oh, he was
Yeah,
brute strong.
Yeah.
Oh, really, really strong.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's the way it goes.
Got to talk about the run with the 77 Habs and what it meant to be on that team that only lost 8 games. You only lost 37 in 4 years. I mean, teams are doing that in a season. That's ridiculous what you did.
Yeah.
I just want you to speak to what it was like year in, week out, month in, month out. When you go through the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup 4 years in a row, it's unbelievable. If you could just share some thoughts on the dominance, from the big three's perspective. You, Serge, and Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing.
Well, we didn't. You
I
know
am wearing
what?
the shirt.
Yeah. And the funny thing is one of the losses was 2-1 to Oakland Seals and Jill Malash. We
Right.
outshot them 48-13, and we lost 2-1.
Jeez.
And they had champagne in the dressing room and the whole bit. But I think that's what made Scotty so special.
Yeah.
Is that was a hell of a team.
Yeah.
But he never let us feel like we were a hell of a team.
Yeah.
He always kept us on edge.
Yeah.
We'd come back, like I said, we'd go out west, win all our games, come
Yeah.
back home, and next day skate the shit out of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'd have an off game where maybe we won, but we won in the third period, and Kenny kept us in the first two
Yeah.
first two periods or whatever.
Yeah.
And the next day say, okay, guys, and nobody's on the ice, go. So he always kept you off balance.
Yeah.
He never let the complacency. And to me, that's what I brought when I started coaching.
Yeah.
Is I took some stuff from Scotty and stuff that I learned from Lemaire and whatever. And anybody can draw up and make plans for practices and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's to be able to communicate with your players and motivate them and know when to push the buttons,
Yeah.
when to kick them in the ass, when to pat
Yeah.
them on the back, and everything else.
There,
And Scotty was good at that.
We'll go back to the Devils. I'll finish on that one. I'll throw it back to Chris. But before we get to the Devils in 2000 and your Stanley Cup there, can you just share something about the Flower? I know I've asked you about him many times, but the guy, what he meant to the Montreal Canadiens, what he meant to the province of Quebec, what he meant to hockey in Canada, what he meant to hockey in the NHL. He was a teammate. I know he was a friend. You spoke at the funeral. Can you share something about Guy? We asked Shooty about it too, and about how he's the worst guy at practice. Like he never wanted him doing the drill first, apparently.
Horrible.
Yes.
But I've never seen the thing that was so great about Flower is that we'd have training camp. Come to training camp. Flower, have you been on skates? Nope. What have you been doing? Well, I was doing this commercial and whatever and he put on his stuff. We go out on the ice and be the best friggin' guy on the ice.
Like for
Just-
real.
Just for real.
Wow.
He would just unending. The guy could shoot. The guy could take a pass. I mean, you had probably about a 4 or 5 foot area around him.
Yeah.
If it was on his backhand, didn't matter. If it was on the other side, he'd take one hand off, and he was so friggin' strong. I mean, he had Popeye arms.
Yeah, I know. Until
Huge.
I met him, I
Huge.
met him, I didn't realize
Oh.
how friggin' his arms were just like
Oh no, that was just like pipes.
steel. Yeah.
Yeah, so he could take a pass and shoot and do everything. But I wouldn't say he was overly fast, and he had kind of he didn't have like Murray Wilson has a beautiful stride.
Yeah.
Like Van Cornway had a beautiful stride.
Yeah.
Geese was kind of choppy,
Yeah.
but really efficient,
Yeah.
and he could turn on a dime, and all of everything that he did came naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a natural hockey player.
Yeah. That's what.
Like that, and that's what Stevie was talking about. I mean, if you were, we had Serge and I usually played with him, with Flower, Shuddy, and then I think it was Pete Mahovlich or Jacques Lemaire in the middle.
Yeah.
And we always had a thing. Shuddy, if we're going out your side, we can shoot it around because we knew Shuddy was always going to be there.
Yeah.
But if we were going out the other side,
Yeah.
it was either myself swinging that way
Yeah.
or Serge going that way, or we'd use Lemaire in the middle. Flower, where he was going, we didn't know. We'd get it to him eventually, but that's the way he was.
There's such a great image of you. Thursday, May 10th, 79, the Too Many Men on the Ice call.
Yeah.
And Game 7 against Boston. Sorry, Chris. Sorry, buddy. But after Flower, I was at that game.
Yeah.
And when Flower scored, I swear to God, as God is my witness, the railing shook in the forum. I was there with my late father, and we had standing room, and the railing shook when Flower scored. And when you watch it, there's such a great image of you skating over. Lemaire obviously was first on the scene. Obviously, the game was tied. You had to go to OT and Lambert at 9:33. But you're next guy on the scene coming in to congratulate him. You guys have tied the game with $1:19 to go, and another tremendous shot by Guy Lafleur.
Yeah.
His shot, did he work? Did you see him in practice shooting a lot of pucks?
He'd be out there for 40 minutes before practice.
Really?
He'd shoot probably 200-300 pucks before practice.
No kidding.
Every day almost. Yeah, he was amazing. Amazing. He could put it wherever he wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't a lucky shot.
No.
But I have to tell you something about that. That you were talking about Lambert.
Yeah.
So we tie it, right?
Yeah.
And then we go into overtime. Peter McNabb's coming down on my side. So I take Peter out. We both fall. We go into the boards, and I look back, and Terry O'Reilly's got the puck all alone
Yeah.
in front against Kenny, and I looked at Peter and I went, "Oh fuck!" And he put it over the net,
Yeah.
missed the net. We went back down.
Yeah.
They made the pass across, banging in the net. That's how the difference between winning and losing.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that was. Mario threw it across. Reggie at center ice a nice little tip to Mario on the fly.
It's probably because he was scared to death he was going to get hit. I don't want the puck here.
You know, Reggie's doing a great job with the alumni. Eh?
Yeah, he does. He works hard.
He works hard. I'm going to the game on Tuesday night, and he
Yeah.
got me tickets. You know.
Yeah.
And I'm so appreciative of that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
be
he's good,
involved
man.
with the alumni there the little bit that I am. But I got last one, Larry. I could go on for an hour, but last one for you. We do have to wrap up. We want to be cognizant of everybody here. So there's a story about you in New Jersey. So first of all, I mean, you got hired 8 games to go in the regular season. I think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't very many.
Was it like were like
I was at home. I just got into the car. I was leaving to go to practice, and I get a phone call from Lou. Said, Larry, I made the decision. I've let Robbie go. I want you to be the coach. I went, what? And I'm sure I must have swallowed my tongue or whatever, but I remember hesitating, and I go, you want me? He goes, yes, I think, you can take over for the rest of the year. I said, well, okay, whatever. And then I went to my first practice then.
wow.
And the first thing I did is I called a meeting, because there was a lot of talking, and I love Robbie Fatorik. He was a great friend, and he helped me a lot again in my coaching. He allowed me during the lockout to run practices down in the minor leagues to learn how to do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And but Robbie's problem is that Arnaud and Sikora and all those guys and Eliash, if they did something wrong, it wasn't like some of the other guys when they did something
Okay,
wrong.
gotcha.
He didn't treat
Kind of
every
two-tier system.
kind of a two-tier system. I guess that's the best way of putting it. And so there was a lot of grumbling going on outside of the team and inside the team and so on and so forth about, well, we don't have any leaders and everything else. So my first thing that I did is I brought everybody in. I said, okay, enough of the bullshit.
Yeah.
You're all saying you're pointing the fingers and this and that, saying you don't have any leaders and so on and so forth. And I pointed at Scotty Stevens, and I said, you got the best leader right here. You don't want a leader that's going to get up rah, 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 and everything else. This guy comes here and works his ass off every day, fights for you. He does everything. I said, you got the best leader here in Scotty, and that's where we're going to start. And from then on, holy cheese, Scotty played some of the best hockey of his life.
I'm glad you segued
Yeah.
into that, because that was going to be my question about your relationship with Scott Stevens.
Yeah, we became really, really close.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I had to coach him as an assistant. I had to,
Right.
and I remember the first time I saw him come off, and after he made a mistake, and I went over to talk to him about the mistake, and I could see the I thought he was going to eat my arm and whatever, and I realized after, he said, okay, you got to give him about 2 or 3 seconds to calm down, because he had an unbelievable temper and everything.
Yeah.
And that's when I first had the conversation. I said, Scotty, you can't be doing all that. He says, you're valuable to us.
Oh, yeah.
So and you're not a stranger to going out in your life. So let's say you head off to the karaoke on Saturday night. What's Larry Robinson's go-to song?
We are champions.
Oh yeah,
Hey, why not?
Queen.
yeah,
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
It's a good one.
It really is, or are you just doing that because you're?
No, I love that song.
Oh, you do it. Yeah.
I've seen that Bohemian Rhapsody. I think I've seen it like 4 times.
Really? Yeah.
That's an awesome,
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a great movie. Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah.
When they show the stadium
Yeah.
and they're all singing,
Yeah.
it just gives you goosebumps. It's
Yeah.
amazing story.
Now, you know what? I'm going to use that as a jumping off point for the final thing. As a player, as a coach, you're surrounded by fans and noise and adulation for years. Leaving that, what's it like post-career as a regular guy?
I'm more busy now since I left hockey than I did when I was in hockey. You look at my calendar, I can't find the numbers. There's something going on all the time, because Mo now comes down for the winter, and so we're golfing at least 2 or 3 or 4 times a week. And my brother-in-law comes and spends 3 months with us during the winter. and I spent one summer here, and I said I'd never do it again because it's so damn hot and humid. So I go back up home, and I have a boat now. So I missed it. Yeah, I finally bought it. I sold my 48 and bought a 44 sedan bridge. So I want to get back on the water because for me, that's my downtime.
There you go.
You know, it takes me about a week, but by about the end of the first week, it's just like putting a needle in a balloon. You just relax, and it's the most peaceful thing I've ever done.
Excellent.
Love it.
Well, have to thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
You know what?
Thanks, Chris.
You're not as intimidating as I was expecting.
Appreciate it.
I'm sitting. That's why.
That's
That's right. It's a game changer when you stand up.
All right. This has been Offside with Haas McGuire. I'm Haas.
I'm McGuire.